Thank you, Eileen. And Dark Sky Vermont, we are a chapter within Dark Sky International, and we just started about a year ago. My name is Gregory Caicco, and I am a naked eye astronomer. I'm somebody who doesn't own a telescope. I am a lover of the night sky for all of its qualities. And my day job is as an architectural historian, so I have an interest in observatories, the human constructions that we make here on Earth that connect us with the skies. And I just wanted to introduce our co-founder of Dark Sky Vermont. We started a year ago, and here's John McCann, just to introduce himself.
Hi, thanks for coming today. My name's John McCann. Along with Greg, we've started Dark Sky Vermont relatively recently, so hopefully we'll inspire you to take part in dark sky conservation and be a part of either our organization or your local chapter. My history with preserving the night sky goes back to my childhood, going to dark places in the wilderness and just being captivated and in awe of the sort of majesty of the Milky Way and a purely dark sky. I then went on to a career working on the Hubble Space Telescope, where I was above the atmosphere, not quite as concerned about the dark sky. But now that I'm sort of back on Earth, I've focused on conservation in a very broad sense, primarily with land conservation, wilderness conservation, farmland conservation. But for me, preserving the night sky is an intrinsic part of that. It's protecting our natural environment, protecting our cultural heritage. And that has brought me to this place and sort of intersecting with you all. And I think it's a really beautiful sort of overlap of responsibilities that we have. And we would love to have you all take part in our mission. So I'll hand it back to Greg for the rest of the talk.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll be both talking as we go through. Before I ask this question, how many here are members of Dark Sky International? Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for supporting Dark Sky International. They started 25, 30 years ago. Flagstaff, Arizona astronomers, for the most part, started it. But now the group includes environmentalists, very important part, those who are interested in bird migrations, pollinators, human health as well. Many scientists from that era noting, how important dark sky is for us. So thank you for your support. And here in Vermont, we are just getting started, but at the same time, Stellafane started the dark sky awareness here. We're just connecting basically what has gone on here for over 100 years of awareness of these beautiful skies of Vermont, very particular skies of Vermont that Stellafane has been nurturing for a very long time and working locally, Springfield and others, to lower lights and that. And so thank you to Stellafane. We are partnering, working together with Stellafane as we move forward as well. I just want to ask the question, what do dark skies mean to you? And we have a microphone, both of us, if you don't mind. If anybody would like to speak, what do dark skies mean to you? Yeah.
To me, dark skies are an avenue to connect with the universe beyond us. There's a majesty and a mystery about the dark skies. I show college students, take them out on stargazes, and people have never seen anything like that in a dark spot. There's a mystical connection, there's awe, there's beauty, there's a sense of being part of something much larger than we are.
Yeah, thank you. There's someone back there.
Dark skies mean to me, I guess because I've traveled to all 7 continents and about 94 countries, and I said, what else can I explore in this world? And I looked up, and there was the sky. And as a child, I had gone to, planetariums and had been introduced to looking at the stars, but thought that, wow, there's something that, it's a whole new world up there. And I was at a friend's house, and he had a telescope, and at the time, Saturn was there, and I looked at Saturn, and I said, that's where I want to go. I want to go there. So dark skies is just a whole new adventure. It's a whole new world, especially if you've seen everything here on this earth.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yes.
Two years ago, for the first time, I attended this Stellafane, and I was so surprised. It's in my lifetime so bright. That night, so bright star. I never imagined. I grown up locally here in Japan, but maybe I forgot. But after grown up, I never think so bright the kind of original. I don't know, heaven made this beautiful, constellation. So I talked to many people. This 2 years ago experience, yeah. So that's good for everybody, for especially kids. They don't know. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Would anybody else like to share?
I like how you're accompanied by your young daughter, I presume. Back in the 1990s, I lectured at the astronomy department at Columbia University, and there were a number of students who were complete urban residents. And 2 or 3 weekends a semester, one of the other professors and I would stuff them all in a couple of vans, and we'd take them upstate New York, up to the Bear Mountain area, if any of you know that. And it would be late afternoon, early evening, twilight. We'd get out of the vans. There was an observatory that we used there. But everybody was inside the observatory. We were giving a lecture and a briefing, et cetera, et cetera. And then it was dark. And then one of us would say to the students, oh, before we get started in here, follow me. And we'd walk them outside. There was a little field out to the side. And perfectly clear, we made sure we went up there during a clear night. And some of them would actually cry. They had never seen the night sky before. They'd only seen 5 stars and a couple planets in the urban sky. And we were sometimes asked, these are astronomy students, they would ask, what's that weird cloud there? Because they didn't think you could ever see the Milky Way. So when they saw it, they didn't know really, they couldn't believe it was the Milky Way. They didn't know how to respond to it. But that infused in me the understanding of the emotional impact that a simple physical observation can have.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I have to say the other side of that story. I live in Thetford, Vermont, and a friend of mine brought his son here to, he's looking at Dartmouth College. And when we took him out to dinner someplace in the woods, he got scared. He says, where are all the street lights? He didn't go to Dartmouth. It was too scary for him.
Thank you. Thank you. 80% of Americans don't have access to the Milky Way, even if they wanted to, and it's getting worse. So thank you for those experiences. For those of you who have been here, Stellafane, for quite a while, have the skies changed here? Put up your hand if you've noticed the skies changing here. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's just an honor to be among people who love the dark. Let's also get a sense of if you were to have the choice between summer solstice and winter solstice, what would be your preferred time of year? Winter solstice, hands up. And summer solstice? The sun is a star. But yeah, you know, having those darker skies, I see more people for winter solstice, you know, the clearer light as well. Russell Porter, as you know, he did Arctic exploration. And in the Arctic, I keep thinking, is that where he encountered 6 months of darkness? You know? Who here would enjoy 6 months of darkness? Put up your hands. Yeah. You know, some people are just, you know, we're night people. And there's a comfort. There is a place, you know, in night. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. As I said, my background is in architectural history. I just wanted to briefly talk about the history. I'm sure all of you have a sense of the long history in humanity of a night sky observations. One could say some of the earliest human-made objects, such as these scratches on a ostrich egg from 80,000 BCE in South Africa. What are they mapping? What are they mapping when they do that? An ostrich egg was used as a water bottle for hunter-gatherers. You blow out the interior, but you need to map on how to get home, one might say. But you need to know the sky. You need to know where. Archaeologists are still trying to wrap their minds around this. You might know the Ashango bone. It has 28 scratches on it. Why might there be 28 scratches? Anyone? 28. Lunar cycle. I'm happy that a woman spoke up about the lunar cycle first. The menstrual cycle, you need to know the women's cycle in your tribe, the moon cycle for women, and the lunar cycle means you know when you're going to have a full moon because you can hunt with a full moon. It's pretty bright, as you all know, with a full moon. And tides, of course, shellfish and all of that, and all the knowledges that come with that. And it's interesting, not really like notched right on the bone of an animal. And is the night not in the bones of our bodies in many ways? The Nebra sky disk, one of the first depictions of the Pleiades. As you can see, Polynesian navigation. I'm sure many of you are fascinated on how they worked out how to get to Hawaii from basically New Zealand, Australia. Each island had its own star, and they knew how to map that incredible wisdom that humans figured out without telescopes. We know Stonehenge, you know Newgrange. Tycho Brahe's Uraniborg, one of the first major observatories before Galileo. It's a naked eye observatory funded by the Danish government, our prince, imperial government at the time. He was given an island. He built this basically castle observatory. to observe the sky. Galileo used his data quite a bit to understand the night sky, although Tycho Brahe wasn't using a telescope. But now what we know about the Uranienberg is the top half of the building was dedicated to night sky data. The bottom half was dedicated to alchemy. So he had 13 ovens in the basement in order to melt down minerals, mash up herbs, and seek the philosopher's stone. And you might say, well, that's that magical thinking that Newton was also doing. Newton had his own alchemy chest and all of that. But the connection between the stars and the earth, it was still connected back then before we have the specialization of, after the Enlightenment, where we have all the sciences specialized. Tycho Brahe was keeping those together. And in many ways, Dark Sky International is bringing that connection again between human experience and the dark, the important connection of 99% or more of human history. Here we are in Abenaki territory, Vermont, Quebec, Maine, New Hampshire. Here's one of the first, earliest recorded, translated, poems, The Song of the Stars by the Wabanaki. We are the stars which sing. We sing with our light. We are the birds of fire. We fly over the sky. Notice this is a poem and the stars are speaking. We're not speaking to the stars. The stars are alive. They are the ancestors. Right? They're kin. They're family. And they're listening. Our light is a voice. We make a road for the spirits to pass over. Among us are 3 hunters who chase a bear. 3 hunters chase a bear. In the West, we call the Big Dipper, 3 hunters that chase a bear. There never was a time when they were not hunting. Right? We always see the Big Dipper. We look down on the mountains. This is the Song of the Stars. And I also love the connection to the audio of night sky, where the cutting edge now of dark sky research is connecting with noise, basically, not only light pollution, noise pollution, but the noise pollution on a larger scale. And I had a wonderful experience last night. It's my first time at Stellafane. I was in awe, not only of looking through the telescopes, people generously allowed me to look through their telescopes, but to be in a community that was comfortable in the dark. Very few red lights were being used last night. I was really impressed. People let their eyes adjust. And I didn't see telescopes being knocked over. Maybe somebody did. I didn't. I was really happy about that. But just to be in a community of people that were comfortable in darkness, as well as not only respecting the dark, but respecting the quiet. It was a relatively quiet night last night. There was a lot of fun and laughter. But the two go together. It's something like, to have this experience at Stellafane is profound, and I'm so glad that you have all contributed to this over so many years. Well, of course, we know the Abenaki moon calendar, which has different moons that are very, very much connected to Vermont, the Vermont experience, such as the Sugar Maker moon. That's a moon that doesn't rise in Arizona. It's a sugar maker moon. And we have, petroglyphs, and we're not sure who these spirits are that are looking at us. Are these the drawings of the night looking back? Archaeology still needs to explore and understand and to talk with the Abenaki people. We also have those who have come here as settlers, and they brought with them Western religions, long history. You well know Genesis, some of the earliest writing from 900 BCE. Let there be light bearers. We say, let there be light. Let there be light bearers Even in deep within Western history, this sense of light almost having personhood, stars having personhood early on in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from night. And then New Testament, of course, around Christmas, the wise men following a star in the Quran. He who placed for you the stars that may be guided by them. It's deep within almost every religion and spiritual tradition, star knowledges. The star keepers in indigenous religions are the wisdom elders. They hold the stories, they connect the sky, the night to the earth, the poetics of Greece, such as Hesiod's Astronomia. Mortals call them the Pleiades. The stormy Pleiades are setting, then vanish the Pleiades. We also have the midnight poem of Sappho, also about the Pleiades, in which she would say, the Pleiades go down, night is now half gone, youth goes, I am in bed alone. For Greece, Pleiades marks the sailing season. It's time to get the ships ready to go out. It's the time where families separate. Sappho is connecting in to that loneliness. And as a historian, I am fascinated by the history of light. And one might say that the Western tradition, from Plato onwards, became what we might call ocular-centric. That is, it begins the cult of light. Right? Think of Plato's cave, those of you who know the Plato's cave myth that Plato talks about, of those who are in darkness, move out of a cave to see the entire sky, the sun, and then they have knowledge. And this kind of hovers over the Western tradition. And then we have, of course, the Gothic cathedral. I mean, what is that but a museum about light? It's because you have the stained glass coming through, but you have the incense coming up from the altar. And so you can see the beams coming through. So light became real, and it was a belief, a deep belief in early Gothic, French Gothic architecture, that light is an element that came from heaven. And it's the one piece of heaven that you can experience here on earth. And therefore it became a pilgrimage site, right? It's like the beginning of tourism. Pilgrimaging between all these Gothic cathedrals. We know Newton's optics on light, and then we have, of course, all the telescopes and astronomy, and then our experience today, our experience of light today. How much of your day is filled with light? How much of your night is filled with light? How much time do you spend in front of a monitor, a screen? And then I'd like to bring about the Asian tradition, which you might also say is a tradition that's held in many traditional societies and indigenous traditions, of the balance of light and night. We have yang on the right, of the positive, the masculine, the active, the expressive, hot, hard, fast. But it always has to be balanced with the negative, the feminine, the passive, the retreating, the quiet, the stillness. I mean, this is a binary. It isn't, this is a retranslation of Asian philosophy into the modern age. But are we balancing darkness and light in our lives right now, in our cities right now, in our communities right now, not only in practice, but also in our thought, our world understanding? Okay, time for a question. Where you live, how dark are your nights? And I put up these scales. Below is the Bortle scale that you know of, 9 being inner city. Visible stars, about 250 in Boston, New York, probably less in Vegas, probably 100 in Vegas. And then we have 1 excellent dark sky, middle of the Pacific Ocean, 6,500 stars or more, and then all the scale in between, and I put in the SQM numbers that they don't quite align. We know the Bortle scale is a problem. We would prefer SQM. Okay. Who here is in the Bortle 8, 9 where you live? Put up your hands. Yeah. Okay. 7. Okay. 6. 5. Wow. Over half now are in well-lit areas day and night. 4. Okay, we're getting a little darker. Rural sky, 3. Yeah. Dark sky site, 2. Anyone? Wow. Anyone in an excellent number 1 here? We should have just a talk from somebody who lives in a number 1 area, just to have that experience. Yeah, it's just, go ahead, John.
Those of you who said you were in number 2 sites, Bortle 2, can I ask where you're from?
Western Virginia and Highland County, where there are hardly any people or lights.
Wow.
Near Green Bank Observatory in West Virginia, but we're in Virginia.
That's great. Anybody else?
I live in Canyon Lake, Texas, which is in the hill country. You've probably heard a lot about us on the news lately with all of the Guadalupe River flooding and everything, but there's basically no lights where I live. In fact, people say, I'm not going to come visit you at night because I might fall off one of those hills. They usually say mountains, and I say they're not mountains, they're hills.
Very active dark sky chapter in Texas. Is there anybody else? No? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John. We asked Stellafane what they think we are here. They said 2.5. I don't know, last night wasn't bad. For how many people who were here last night, was that the best sky you saw this year? Put up your hand. Yeah. Yeah, to me it was just such a privilege to see that sky last night. And yet, it's that Vermont particular night sky, the twinkling stars. Vermont. We know where the dark sky areas are in America, out west. The closest is AMC Maine, which is a dark sky protected park. How many have been there? AMC Maine? Yeah. Pretty dark? Yeah. John, you said you were there?
Well, I have a very memorable experience when I went to Baxter State Park as a child. I grew up a fairly dark area, but when I went to Baxter on a new moon, it was a really transformative experience for me. Several people have described that experience where you really get to see it truly dark for the first time, and it's different than kind of dark. There's a big step between, say, 2 and a 1, or even maybe into the best sites. But one thing I just wanted to sort of touch on here that we asked earlier, what captures you about the dark sky? And I think several people said something I wanted to highlight. That idea that you could look forever in space. Our friend from Texas mentioned this. You could look forever in space and always see something new. And that's a very interesting experience to have. It's so literally incomprehensible and so unimaginably vast and almost magical that how could we not hand that on to our children? Right? So the idea that they would be deprived of that experience is one of the things that motivates me.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, John. Off the internet, I got a satellite picture of Vermont. They did their calculations, put Bortle 2. That's debatable. We don't have enough data, but we've been working with Vermont State Parks, and we've given all the park interpreters for this season SQM sky quality meters, and we're going to start measuring the parks here, and we'll see if we have some dark sky places that we can start working towards protecting. And that's amazing. That's a big thing for us. And we had the first reading come in just 2 days ago. I didn't mention this to you, John, but we had a 21.5 reading not too far from here. And so we're getting into that pretty dark area, and we hope to keep the data going. But once you have the data, then you can start protecting areas, saying, okay, this is dark, and then we can make it darker by lowering lights and other things. Here are some of the state parks that we think might be candidates: Jamaica State Park, Branbury State Park, Big Deer State Park, Brighton State Park. But you get up into Maine, and at least the satellite data says it's a little bit darker. Here's a question. For those of you who've been in Vermont, and I might even say kind of New England in general, but Vermont, what makes our skies so special? Especially compared to out west, if you've been to Arizona. What makes our skies special? Anybody? Yes.
I had this very conversation at Kitt Peak last October. I hadn't been there in a few years when I did an observing run. And I exclaimed to one of the people who was in our group there, I think Vermont skies are darker than your skies here in Arizona. And I think I know why. You guys do not have trees. And the reason is that if you have a so-called security light at a ranch in Arizona, you can see it 30 miles away. If you have a so-called security light in Vermont, it travels 50 feet before it hits trees and boom. Unless it's aimed upwards, and that's a different story. But if it's aimed downwards or sideways, it will be cut off by the trees. Anyway, that's my candidate.
Excellent. Actually, I haven't heard that, and it just it confirms my own experience. We have kind of natural little observatories here that kind of enclose us in. Yes? Yeah, we have a small population, which contributes to the energy here, of what it's like to be in the dark. Yes, thank you. Anything else that makes Vermont special? There's a hint in the slide picture. There's a hint. Can you see these clouds near the bottom? There's these just very faint clouds near the bottom. This is a great picture made by one of our members at the Northern Skies Observatory in Peacham. Clouds. We're a pretty cloudy area. This is how cloudy we are. 208 days a year of clouds, 200 Rutland, 196. USA average, 156. Yuma, Arizona, the most cloudless place in America, 56 days a year. So our clouds are here. And you might say, wow, that's probably why we don't have professional astronomers working here and publishing a lot of papers out of Vermont. But Stellafane's here. We have a lot of amateur astronomy, and we have people aware of the night sky. And I'll just make a case. I'm going to make a case for the special nature of Vermont skies. Bear with me. Cloudy night benefits. Warmer nights. Right? For those of you who've been out to Arizona at night, it gets very cold when you're looking at the stars. I lived in Phoenix, so I know. Of course, the practice of patience, presence, awareness, waiting for that cloud to pass before you could see the stars that you want. But sometimes the cloud is part of the experience. It's connecting us. Cloudy nights are darker than cloudless nights. Now, clouds can reflect city light, so it can be kind of bright as well, but they're darker above the clouds. So that means better for bird migration. They migrate above the clouds, so it's nice and dark above the clouds, better for pollination, seed distribution by plants. Reflecting light away, and better for circadian rhythms of just having that darkness. Plants, animals, humans, we need the darkness. But, I'll make also the case for the aesthetics. Nuanced nightscapes, more twinkling stars because of that atmospheric humidity. We experienced it last night, a lot of twinkling. It was, you might say, it's getting in the way of that clarity, but that's part of it. And then, the softening of things. And this is where I'll make a case that, Vermont has that opportunity of having that aesthetic awareness, that almost Asian awareness, I'd say, of the balance of things in nature. Would anybody like to add to this? Anything I mentioned here? Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Where? Would somebody like? Oh, there we are. Yeah.
I was also going to mention winter. That.
Yeah. Thank you.
We live in Plymouth, Vermont, and it can be very, very dark in the wintertime because when it gets really cold, it makes it so clear.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. It is unbelievably special. Winter, long nights here. And the clarity, yeah. So I'll just ask, what for you is the night beyond the telescope? We know contemporary astronomy. They're in front of monitors most of the day, contemporary astronomers. Less than 10% of their time when they were recently surveyed, they would say they spend looking at indirectly through telescopes, a typical astronomer today. And so one might say, what's going on here? The telescope making, in a way, continuation or revival is part of a sense of wanting that connection. But, what are the benefits beyond the telescope for you? Or what are the experiences beyond the telescope for you in the dark skies? Anybody like to share about that? I'll make, direct experience. Of course, naked eye, observations. What I saw last night was so interesting. People were going around looking in each other's telescopes. Very, such beautiful objects that people were bringing up last night. But so much of the time also, I was watching people just finding the objects. And what were they doing? I was seeing hands go up, measuring where the object is. That's naked eye observations. Having the body experience of mapping the sky, knowing, okay, that's one hand, one arm, long tradition of that because the sky is relational to us. Of course, there's the community, right? The star bathing, star parties. What a wonderful thing to bring together family, friends, students, community, to share in that. And so a cloud passes by, it's connection time. It's story time. And are we fully taking advantage of that? Because, we, the people here, have the telescopes, but that's just part of the experience, right? The story time. And the awareness of darkness ecosystems, of which we'll talk about, the pollination and the bird migrations. And was anybody woken up by that barred owl at 5 a.m. last night. Did anybody hear that? Put your hand up if you heard the barred owl. Wow, it's like an alarm. It was beautiful. Yeah, it's like, hello, I'm here. And of course, there's the indigenous knowledges, recognizing indigenous knowledges that are integral to each place here in the Americas and all over the world. As we know, a lot of the climate change declarations enshrine indigenous knowledges as a way of combating climate change. Are we fully supporting and understanding, being curious about that connection? Okay. Would anybody like to just talk about how your own local nights have changed? Yes, back here. Yes, can you? No more fireflies. Since when? How long? Yeah. 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 Very simple solution to fireflies, less fireflies. How many are experiencing less fireflies where you are? Yeah. What else has been changing in your night sky? Anyone? Yes, here.
Lots and lots more satellites. You can't really point it anywhere in the sky. Within 5 minutes, you see something floating across your field of view.
Yeah. Thank you. Somebody let me look in their telescope last night, M11. 2 satellites went right by, right crossed over as soon as I put my eye up against. Satellites. Anyone else? What's changing in your night sky? Since you were a kid, what's changed?
I think that I see more flights, airplanes flying, in the night. So that's one of the things that's really, really changed.
Yeah.
The flight pattern. I think that no matter where I am, looks like I'm always near a flight pattern because I'm like, oh, there's a... No,
Yeah.
it's moving, so it's not
Yeah.
a star or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody remember the day after 9/11? All the flights were canceled in America? It was so dark. Yeah. Anyone else? What's changed in your skies? Yes.
I used to be able to just walk outside and see Andromeda. It was right there, and now I can't find it. To use binoculars or telescope.
Anyone else? I will admit that I'm somebody who is experiencing climate change grief at a profound level. Dark skies, the loss of dark skies is all part of that as well, our technological advance. And would anybody say that they're grieving? Would you put up your hand? Yeah. Yeah. During COVID, I lost my father-in-law to COVID. My wife decided to honor her father by naming a star after him. And she named the star, You Who Are Older Than Us. You Who Are Older Than Us. And it's right by Polaris. I see Polaris and I think of my father-in-law. That's in the tradition of where the ancestors go. I find a lot of solace in the sky, Okay, Vermont, what's the situation here? These are, from satellite data past basically from 2012 to 2022. Montpelier, 2.75% increase a year in artificial light. Burlington, 1.32, Rutland, 1% a year. So things are changing here in Vermont. So that's, a driver of a lot. That's pretty quick for a place that's, as mentioned, not many people, but it's like, how many lights do we need, right? So let's talk about, typically when we talk about dark skies, we talk about light pollution, but let's talk about, let's just talk about the effect of artificial light. Here's a picture from a typical suburb, and they took a picture right after a power outage. All of a sudden, the stars open up. It doesn't really show on that slide as much, but we'll talk about light trespass, glare, sky glow, light clutter. I know that you know this. How many have sky glow where you normally go with your telescopes? How many are experiencing sky glow? Yeah, almost everybody. Here in Vermont, it's Boston and Montreal. Boston. Oh, yeah, it's Springfield here. Yeah. And for those near Burlington, yeah, totally. It's just, and of course, the sky glow from your neighbors. Let us not forget, but sky glow. Satellites, we've already mentioned this. Starlink. Mr. Musk has put a lot up there, helping a lot of people connect, in rural areas. Doing wonderful things for having people get connected to one another, but at what cost? So he's put up, 9,000, 10,000 small satellites. But China right now just announced that they have 10 times that coming in the next 10 to 20 years. Yes? Yeah. Who would agree with that? Yeah. Our skies need the same protection as our national parks. Thank you. Yeah. Satellites. We're losing the experience of the sky. You say, well, in between the satellites, it seems like the old sky I know. It's a very different sky. And we now know that the satellites that Musk has put up, they have a little monitor on it to make sure they don't bump into one another. That monitor goes off every 5 minutes. That's how many are going on a typical satellite to maneuver around another satellite. Light trespass. John, can you help us with a little bit of this light and color and all of that?
Sure, it's been several decades since my physics studies, but we can talk some basic things about light. I think most of you know this already. One of the things that has changed a lot in our night skies, and especially with concerning sky glow, is the transition from incandescent to LED. The early LEDs, very typically blue. I think the only LEDs that existed for some time were blue. And that was a huge change from mostly sodium lamps, which, in the previous slides where we showed the sort of disastrous effects of sky glow, actually those were pretty yellowy, weren't they? They actually weren't as bad as they could be. What happened is we went from something quite warm, we call it, right, to something, what they say, daylight-like, very blue. And that has a number of really bad consequences for observers, for human health, for wildlife, basically across the board. The effect on you, primarily, I think, will be that because of Rayleigh scattering, it's going to scatter and create much more sky glow. Those blue lights are basically disastrous for the night sky. Animals have not co-evolved with blue light at night, right? So we had blue during the day. We had warm fires and things that were very reddish at night. And the animals are in a similar position, not quite as accustomed to fire, but they evolved to, locate themselves, navigate under very different conditions, not expecting to see very bright blue lights at nighttime. our sleep cycles, all kinds of things I think Greg's going to get into. But what we're looking at here is there's ways we can mitigate that. We can't go out and change all the street lamps, but what we can do is we can shield them. And these are kind of there's principles of good lighting that Dark Sky International has established, and these are some of the basics. Don't trespass your light onto somebody else. It's basically, people made an analogy to littering, right? You don't throw your garbage on your neighbor's lawn. Why are you throwing your light on their lawn? Or into their windows, into their bedroom windows. So we have a couple examples here, very bad, no shielding whatsoever. Not only is this bad for everybody around that doesn't want the light, but it's wasteful. A lot of the light is going up. Nobody's going to use it there. It's going to hurt everything above. And we have a sort of gradation here to best. The best, very warm, directed down, not trespassing on your neighbors. We show an example here of one of the worst examples of those horrible things we see on the sides of like warehouses and some lower end homes that just shine out in the worst possible way. I can't remember, they have a name for those. What we really want to do is outdoor lighting should be directed and it should be on a timer, right? So it shouldn't be just on all night long. We have new technology that we can actually use LEDs that are warmer. It's something that we need to advocate for in our municipalities and into the sort of big box stores and things like that. And I think that's we have, for anybody who wants to go deeper into the science, we have a white paper here published by the International Dark Sky, and that was, I believe, written by Mario Mata, who is somebody who is in the Massachusetts chapter, but also works with us in Vermont. And that goes deep into the science if anybody's interested.
Yeah. Thank you. And glare. I mean, it's connected with blue light, but, well, first off, I just need to clarify, Dark Sky International is not against light, okay? And it's really important if you become members or you join us, and you're very much welcome to just help us get the word out locally or whatever, but know that our messaging is just responsible lighting. Humans need light, but responsible lighting. So responsible lighting, yeah, we have security lights on houses. When they're glaring, they're actually less safe. Here is a security light, then you put the hand over it and you can actually see a person who was there in the first picture. Studies show that when you light up an alleyway in inner city, that's where more crime is, not in the dark alleys. And then there's the glare when you're driving. Who has noticed the glare being a little different than it was 10 years ago when you're driving? Yeah, especially for those of us with older eyes. Yeah, it's getting, and we're, again, just like satellites, who's monitoring car light design? We're trying to, with Dark Sky, writing letters, having campaigns. Join us for that. We always have links for that sort of thing, as well as campaigns for satellites and monitor this. But it's, the experience of glare, driving, dusk or at night, it's dangerous. It's just dangerous. And then the glare in the neighborhood, right? Dangerous as well. Can you really see who's in front of you when you're walking down the street? And then there's just light clutter. And you can say, well, that's, it's just too much, We all have good friends who love to go to Vegas, and they love the light clutter, and that's their way, But it can also be disorienting. Just all the buildings, all the cars, all the lights, disorienting. Dark Sky doesn't have a position on holiday lights. And it might be the bane of your existence with your neighbors or something. We don't have a position on that because, we are really trying to focus on the big picture, and generally right now, it just causes a lot of unnecessary push back about what our bigger program right now. We do want holiday lights, of course, to be reduced. Vermont is trying ideas such as holiday luminaries. We do this in our neighborhood. On Christmas Eve, people put out little candles under, with a little kind of tent over the candles, or it's kind of a milk jug with a candle inside, electric candle, and it's very magical, and it's really low, and everybody goes for a walk. So you meet neighbors, right? You can see them too. And that's, I don't know if that's happening in your neighborhood, but that's the sorts of things that we're kind of, promoting, getting our minds around, light as the thing to celebrate our neighborhood, our house, our city. I've already mentioned bird migrations. That's a major disruption. 70% of birds are migratory. 80% of those birds migrate at night. In Chicago, you probably have heard of this. In one night, one skyscraper, 1,000 deaths of birds in just one night. The light disorients, it attracts. We are promoting Lights Out Vermont. Sierra Club has been voluntarily doing it, and I encourage you to raise that. Join us. Lights Out, it started 25 years ago in North America, turning out the lights during migration periods, or lowering them at night in your houses, your neighborhoods, getting your neighbors on board. And the way to get your neighbors on board is, do you love birds? Not turn off those lights. It's, do you love birds? Do you want them to come and visit your yard? Are they building nests? Has anybody here noticed less bird activity in your neighborhood over the past 10 years? Put your hands up. Yeah. Yeah, it's a concern, big concern. Birds. Pollinators, butterflies, and fireflies, as we mentioned. All of these need darkness. Fireflies pick up the light during the day. We had a wonderful firefly season this year because of so much sun past month and a half here in Vermont. I live in a wonderful house that is now kind of the firefly place to come in my neighborhood. It was very simple. I asked Green Mountain Power, our electrical company, to put a shield on my streetlight so that the light doesn't come onto my property, it just stays on the street. And we get, this year, clouds of fireflies. It's like, what? And my neighbors know, It's that simple. Beautiful. And for us, it's like the visiting of the stars to us when you see, especially when they go up into the sky. Disruptions, fish ecosystems. One of the brightest events from the International Space Station are these fishing trawlers in Southeast Asia. Bangkok, there's fishing boats. You can see the green light there. And you shine the light on the water, and the fish come, and then you trawl them up with your nets. It's well known, for those of you who are even just, fisher people in the rivers here, sometimes people are using light to track the fish. So bridges are a place where lights are often placed, and yet that's where you'll gather fish and they'll become disoriented as well. Turtles and amphibians. Sea turtles are probably the best studied. They're now studying all sorts of turtles. Sea turtles, they go towards the light. The light reflecting off of the sea, so they know where to go after they lay their eggs. They're disoriented. You put lights all over the beach, we're losing the turtles. Yeah. And of course, human health. Our circadian rhythms. How many of people here get sleepy around 2 p.m., 3 p.m., want a nice nap. Put up your hand. Yeah, that's siesta time in many non-American cultures. Go have that nap. Our bodies actually get to have that. And who wakes up at 3 a.m., 2 a.m.? Naturally, you just wake up. Yeah, that's in monasteries, that's called vigil. You wake up and you do the prayers. It's natural to wake up. We now know from the history of sleep that they're studying, they call it the 2 nights. It's a common term that was used in England and all over Europe. The 2 nights, you sleep, you wake up, you have a little meal, go out for a walk, you come back and you do the second sleep. And so why are we getting so angry at ourselves when we wake up in the middle of the night? That's our body. But it's all thrown off with the lights in the city, especially looking at lighted objects just before you go to bed. Really, a lot of research on that. E-readers or readers that you might have in your hand, your phone, calming that down a few hours before bed. Yeah, that's all part of our rhythms, but the darkness of night is one of the best ways for a community to organize themselves in that. Human health. And of course, energy consumption. Our lighting consumes so much of our power. This is lighting we do not need, just outdoor lighting. A lot of it could power 35 million homes in a typical year. The amount of money saved. When we approach towns and people who are in power, who work with policy, this is a big driver. Just give them the money argument. Hey, just replacing your bulbs and timing them correctly for street lights. Let's see how much your town or city can make some savings. And yeah, your counselor will get on board. It's that simple. It's like, who's going to these people and just saying, hey, let's save a few bucks? That usually drives a lot, the economic argument. I wish the argument would be pollinators and bird migrations, but people on your council, right? You know how they think. So what can we do? We've mentioned lots of things that we can do already, and I'm sure the wheels are spinning for you locally, statewide, nationally. Anything that you can do. We know from the history or the study of persuasion that if you want to persuade somebody out of their mindset, and I know you're all thinking of that neighbor with the bright light. How do you persuade that person or that city, bright lights? What we know from persuasion is 5 points of contact of the message. All right? So you might talk with them. That's not going to change them. But hey, they might see a social media post, that talks about dark skies. And then somebody gives a talk at the local library. Might be you, might be somebody you know. Maybe there's a star club or star party going on, and you're talking about the darkness. And then one other contact, it might be they see a video on YouTube. And that's enough. And then it's their idea, right? It's not you trying to convince them. Then it's like, hey, why aren't we doing this? And so, we at Dark Sky, we're still young. We're learning how to persuade people around that. So this is what we do at Dark Sky. Our 4 Ps. Maybe we can add another P as well. But just being present to the dark and falling in love with night and inviting your friends, family to look through your telescopes, to fall in love with darkness, to not be afraid, to take people out, your students out to wilderness areas. That's number 1. It's like the experience drives everything else. Then we know why we're doing this. Poetics, the arts have meant so much. We began with poetics. The arts, writing poetry, taking your photographs of the sky. How beautiful those photographs we're getting from from the deep sky telescopes right now, the poetics, and just opening up all of that. That's, to me, is number one. That, once we have that, then everything else almost comes after it. We have more discussion and public awareness. We can start partnerships, with environmental groups and town councils and hunters and fishers. They are a major part of Dark Sky International as our membership. They know that dark is very important. We're making connections, but these are people who understand the dark. And then policy. We would love to change the dark sky ordinances in all of your cities and towns to make them more responsible. But we know, John, you work with policy. There are limits, right? You can write the most beautiful policy that's so precise, and it just takes one politician to just put that aside and just do what they need to do. We're watching that, one might say, at the federal level. Lots of wonderful laws, they can just move aside. But if there is a cultural understanding, a discourse in the neighborhood, city, then it's not so easy for those in charge to push those policies aside. So for us, policy is important, but they're always supported by community. And that's just what we're doing. And that's what I'm trying to focus here on, just owning the fact that we love the dark. All of us here. And let's just pass on that amazing experience to everybody we know. And let's get this conversation, going. Here's another thing you can do. You might know this site, Globe at Night. How many of you have contributed to Globe at Night? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's just, they often put out, they'll put out a question. Can you see this star where you are? And they'll name a particular star, and that's how they get their data. It's citizen science. From that data, recently they said, over the past 10 years, following 51,000 data points, the world's night sky got brighter 9.6% a year. 9.6% a year. And they say if the trend continues, a child born today in a place where there's 250 stars, that's like Boston or wherever, are visible now, would only be able to see 100 stars by their 18th birthday. That's what's coming out from citizen science right now. We need people to contribute to that. It's quite easy. You have the telescopes. Doesn't take long. They need the data. We can make the case the more data we have. Of course, sky quality meters. How many here have sky quality meters? 2, looks like. Great. Yeah, that helps. It helps designate your regions that are dark. Encouraging people, municipalities, parks, state parks near you, to have them, the state interpreters, sharing your sky quality meters with others, giving tutorials on them. That way we can also gather data, sky quality meters. This one is the one recommended by Dark Sky International. It's $155. So yes, it's expensive, but the data, what is that worth? So as I said, the state park interpreters this year, their theme here in Vermont is dark skies. Every interpreter has a sky quality meter, and they're going out at night measuring. This can happen locally for you too. And of course, I'm sure the wheels have been turning about what can I do locally. Okay, just a reminder, we've already talked about this. Light only if needed. Light only when needed. Use motion sensors or timers. Light only where needed. Shield it. Direct it down only in the places absolutely where you need it. Warm light or amber light. Avoid blue-white light. Use the minimum amount of light needed. Use energy-efficient lights. That's our basic artificial light message. We have a table set up, by the way, right behind this building, right behind this wall. Come and visit me. I've got literature on this. You can take as much as you want. You can pass it out to your friends and people. And their literature, they'll send it to you from Dark Sky International for free if you want to hand out pamphlets on all of this to people. And we'd be happy to talk with you and have you, of course, join us in Dark Sky. Of course, the whole ecosystem is part of the Dark Sky. Here in Vermont, we have a strong permaculture world. Ben Falk, one of the major writers on permaculture, he's one of our members. He understands how, changing our environment around our homes and areas so that we're aware of the wilderness, aware of pollination, helps us become aware of the dark sky. Yes. Grow food, not lawns. And here in Vermont, we have a wonderful history of protecting our ecosystems. You might know, it was kind of an early state that just embraced tourism, hiking, and protecting. And just recently, 2023, they have a Biodiversity Protection Act protecting 50% of state land. So we're on our way in Vermont. We're trying to do as best we can to preserve what we can. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And you might be aware of Vermont, our billboard ban. Please support our billboard ban. Keep telling people about what's going on in Vermont. It's a long time we've had it. This is what Vermont used to look like up here in the top left. And then these billboards went out. Here's one from Northfield, Vermont. These bills, printed pamphlets, and they said no billboards. There's 4 states in America without billboards. Alaska, I think, is another one. If we start stepping back and letting the advertisement industry kind of move in, the commercial industry move in, this is where it's going. And these. They're basically a computer monitor, a big, bright computer monitor in your town. And even when there's no advertising on it, it's just shining there. But here, people complained in 2022 when they saw this sign and was removed within months. And again, people put up other billboards on a hay truck, and just this year was removed again. We can just pick up the phone, call somebody, we get it removed. You can do that here in Vermont for you Vermonters, and we encourage you to think about it. I know it's a big task, but if that's a thing that is driving you, think about that as well. The ideal, you know what the beautiful drive was to here. The calming down just to get here once you enter Vermont. And we're working on our lighting guidelines. That's a picture of the shield that I took from my house that they just put on our lamp, and that was enough to make our house. It was bright. You could see a little bit of my house down there. And now you can't see my house. You can see fireflies. But yeah, we're working on light policy and ordinances and we are here to support you, especially Vermonters, but anyone, to help you with policy, developing guidelines, talking with counselors, and please come and just introduce yourself to us at our table back here. We have a member list, and we can just keep you informed of what we're doing and how you can get involved. We want to claim our dark sky places, certified dark sky places. 190 now around the world. AMC Maine, there it is, 2021. Doug Ariam. Okay, we're gonna finish up here. Who is part of Stellafane, was part of that, and I will. And here we are, just reminding you, we have an International Dark Sky Week, Lights Out Vermont. Please join us for these. And here we are. That's our talk. I'd really encourage you to share the love of the night. And thank you, John, for joining me with this. Thank you. Do you have any final words, John? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just had one final thought. In a sense, we're preaching to the choir here. I think you were all on board with protecting our skies. But one thing I wanted to leave you with is you are all ambassadors for that cause. If you can talk to just 3 people when you go home, spread that message, that's all it takes. Policy is hard. Politicians generally will do what's easiest. If we all make this something that is just common sense, everybody gets it, the politicians will just take care of it. They'll do it for us. So it's a grassroots effort. you're all part of it, and we hope that you'll join us in that mission. And thanks for joining us today.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.